know, when you've been reviewing movies for as long as I have, you find out the hard way that the worst movies aren't the ones that offend you or are the most incomprehensible or the most stupid, no. They are the ones that are the most boring. The movies that give you nothing to say at all about them. The movies that leave zero footprint on anything. You can go on and on for ages, or even eons about movies like Swiped, Dragon Ball Evolution, Marmaduke, you name it. But when you think about those movies that are just so generic and dull, well, it's kind of hard for them to come to mind, isn't it? Movies like Luck, Lightyear, or even the Norm of the North sequels are perfectly content with just doing the bare minimum. No, that wasn't a pun. Shut up! I mean, seriously, do you still see people talking about the Norm of the North movies anymore? Not the same way we talk about disasters like The Last Airbender or The Room. It's not even on the same level because it's just that generic. But for major studios like 20th Century Fox, who cares as long as it makes money?
Fucking thing sucks!
Titan AE is one of the biggest box office disasters in animation history. It's easily up there with the stories of Treasure Planet, Rise of the Guardians, and whatever the fuck Dorothy's Return was. Holy shit. Titan AE was originally supposed to be a live-action movie, but after passing through multiple directors, including Joss Whedon at one point, eventually was sent to Fox Animation Studios where Don and Gary would take over. And when I say take over, I mean be taken behind the woodshed and basically be forced to do it at gunpoint because it was either make this movie or dig their own graves.
Fox, we just finished making Anastasia, and Fox had been working on the story for the next movie that we would make. They'd been working on the story for 2 years and hadn't come up with anything. And they had hired some director, and the director was going to go in there, and he was going to direct Titan AE. They've been working for 2 years. They spent $30 million and hadn't shot one frame of film. Not even a story reel, nothing. So they fired this director. They had nothing prepared for us to do. We had 300 employees sitting out there in Phoenix, Arizona. Bill Mechanic, President Fox, says, come in here. He says, I have nothing for you to work on. Here's the choices. We lay all your people off out there in Phoenix, tell them to go away, or you take Titan AE and do it. It's a science fiction film. I said, I don't know anything about science fiction. I don't even like science fiction. He said, those are your choices. And then Gary kicked me under the table, and he says, of course we'll do this. So I went back and looked at the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drawings of creatures and decided, well, okay, so we're going to do Titan AE, which was a nightmare.
With a budget of about $75 million, it would only go on to gross just under $37 million.
This is one of those stories where we made Titan AE, and at the same time, there were rumblings going on politically at Fox in which Rupert Murdoch, I think is the guy's name.
Yes, he's evil.
Decided he didn't want Bill there anymore, and we were part of Bill. Therefore, he said, get rid of Bill, get rid of Titan AE, get rid of it, get rid of, we're starting new. So, Titan AE went, no money put into the distribution. So, hardly anyone saw it.
There was even a video game being made for the PlayStation 1 that was showcased at the 2000 E3 Expo, but it was canceled when the movie bombed. And frankly, after seeing the gameplay of it, probably dodged a bullet here.
God has forsaken us!
Now look, I don't want to be too hard on the game since it's clearly unfinished, but I don't know, did it really need to be canceled? I know Atlantis the Lost Empire didn't make a lot of money, but its video game was released. Same with Treasure Planet. But I'm getting off topic here. Production of this film was a total disaster, as expected with a Don Bluth movie. Don and Gary were given only 19 months to make the film, which is a pretty short amount of time considering how long animated films usually take. The movie also suffered a number of big setbacks, which in 1999 led to the layoff of over 300 animation staff. Because of this, a lot of the scenes in the final picture would be outsourced to other animation studios, including, interestingly enough, Blue Sky Studios. Yeah, I'm serious. That scene at the end of the movie where a new planet is created, they animated that. Which, you know, good for them. It's the best looking scene in the movie. But okay, despite being a net loss of about $100 million, money is one thing. Treasure Planet is great despite it being a box office disaster. So hey, maybe Titan AE will be amazing as well. It sucks. Yeah, it sucks. When I started reviewing all the Don Bluth films, I knew right away this would be a great opportunity to finally see them all. When I started this mission, I had yet to see Bartok the Magnificent, Rockadoodle, Pebble and the Penguin, and finally Titan AE. And while I still have an American Tail to review after this movie, I can now say I have seen every movie these two have directed. So far, and it's gonna be live action, not as fun. I've heard people everywhere go, oh, just wait till you get to Titan AE, it's so good, and oh dude, Titan AE is such an underrated gem, and after finally watching it, I'm wondering if we all watch the same movie, because my god, this movie is so fucking boring. This is one of the most boring, generic, and played out sci-fi films I've seen in a long time. If you have seen literally any other sci-fi film, then you've seen Titan AE without even realizing it. Everything about this movie is just so been there, done that. From the characters, to the story, to the space stuff, to the themes, and it never offers anything new or substantial to make up for that. These are just some of the most flat, uninteresting characters I think Don Bluth has ever written.
Actually, you're wrong. RaisorBlade. Don did not write this movie.
Oh. Well, okay then, these are some of the most flat, uninteresting characters I think Gary has ever written.
Not him either.
Well, who the fuck wrote this movie then?
Hans Bohr.
Hans what? Well, what is he known for?
He is one of the creators of the cult classic film series called Anaconda.
Anaconda? Oh. Oh! Oh. So yeah, this is the first and, so far, only movie Don has directed where he wasn't involved in the story at all. Which isn't all that surprising since Fox pretty much just dropped this into his lap and expected a masterpiece within 19 months.
I actually am not a great storyteller, and I recognize that weakness in myself. If I sit down and write a script, it won't be a great script. It takes, a good script will take anywhere from 6 months to a year to maybe 2 years to write. So what happened in our career is that we would spend all of our budget hiring some artist to come in, writer, to come in and write us a script. And after that writer had written a script that didn't work and no one liked and everything, we had spent the money and sent the writer home. I had 2 weeks to come up with a script. That was Thumbelina.
The movie is about a kid named Kale who watches as his planet Earth is destroyed by an alien race called the Dredge. He then grows up to be a rebellious bad boy who has a rough attitude and gets into fights all the time. He's sick of being stuck in the same place all the time. He wants to go out and see the galaxy. Wow, never seen the angsty, rebellious young adult before. What a unique personality we've never seen before. I especially love how he's just kind of a big dick to everybody, especially Akima, who he insults the first chance he gets. Oh, but don't worry, they fall in love later, so it's cool that he was a total dick to her. I'm loving it. And then you have the father figure who turns out to be a traitor later down the line. Wow, that totally wasn't expected. I especially love how he calls up the Dredge to talk about handing over the Titan to them for profit while the fucking door is cracked open. Gee, it would really suck if Kale just so happened to walk by as you were discussing betraying him. Oops! You're a fucking idiot. Akima is just the woman. That's really about it. She exists solely for the purpose of just being a reward for Kale once he saves humanity. Again, I love how she hates his guts when they first meet because, again, he was being what he doesn't have, a huge dick. But then, they have a whopping 1 conversation together, and suddenly they're really into each other.
Well, that was a load of shit.
The rest of the characters are just kind of whatever. Preet is just another twist villain because, you know, the more the merrier, right? The other two are just really annoying comic relief and that's it. This kangaroo one is irritable all the time. That's her character. And this one is just really annoying. He looks like a hybrid of Jumba from Lilo and Stitch and Mole from Atlantis the Lost Empire. He's also voiced by Bruno? Seriously? Okay, yeah, I actually would have never guessed that. Who knew other than Wikipedia? Now look, it's one thing to have character tropes that we've seen before, but unless you do something new or interesting with it, then that's all it is, a stereotype. And that's really all these characters are. Kale is just an unlikable douchebag for most of the movie. You know he really doesn't care that much about humanity being wiped out and stuff. All he wants for most of the movie is a paycheck of some kind. He doesn't care about tracking down his dad or learning the secrets of the Titan. He just wants the money. What a hero. Now, to be fair though, his dad is kind of a dumbass too. So Kale's father is the one who created the Titan, which was humanity's last hope. What is the Titan? Well, it's a giant sphere that can create a new Earth. And Kale's father, who is voiced by the delightful Ron Perlman, so that's what I'll be calling him, gives Kale a map that will allow him to find it. I repeat, he gave his 7-year-old child the map that will save humanity. Like, okay, am I the stupid one here? Or is that like a really stupid thing to do? You gave your child the map that will save what's left of humanity. Did you ever stop to think that he's a fucking kid? A real kid would probably end up losing it in a week, let alone 15 years. And yeah, I get it, the ring is important to him, but come on! You couldn't have at least handed it over to the babysitter for safekeeping? On top of that, you basically made your son a walking target for the dredge. Did it ever once cross your mind that you would be putting your son's life in constant danger? Should he survive the evacuation? Yeah, that's a really stupid thing to do, Dad. Okay, well the dredge weren't supposed to know about the map, RaisorBlade. He didn't know Corso would betray him. Why would he expect such a thing? Why wouldn't he expect such a thing? Humanity sucks. Sorry, but he couldn't give the ring to literally anyone else. There weren't any generals around, or professionally trained soldiers, or the president or something. No, his fucking 7-year-old son is the only one. Not even the fucking babysitter? This guy's a fucking idiot. No wonder Kale doesn't give a shit about his dad. I wouldn't either. But you wanna know what's funny? It's not his dad that makes Kale give a shit about humanity, or Corso, or even his love interest that makes him care about humanity. It's this kid. This random fucking kid who shows up out of nowhere around the hour mark of this hour-and-a-half long movie. It takes our main character an hour in this hour-and-a-half long movie to finally give a shit about the plot. And it's all because some random kid goes, "Oh, golly gee, mister, wouldn't it be really swell if we had a real field to play a game of soccer on?" I'm sorry, why is your game of soccer relevant again? What does this have to do with anything? Shouldn't our main character already give a shit about humanity by this point in the movie? Look, I'm cool with him only wanting money at first, but by the hour mark, he should start giving more of a shit. Why is this random bleeding heart moment in the movie? Oh, I know why it's here. Because in this movie about humanity going extinct, they forgot to actually show us the humanity. And that is why this movie fails so hard, because it never really shows us the urgency of humanity's extinction, which is so weird because the movie literally starts with Earth blowing up. But every time we see humans of any kind in this movie outside of our main characters, we don't really get to see the struggle all that much. Most of it is only exchanged through exposition by Corso or the other characters. And do I need to remind you all of the #1 rule in filmmaking? Show, don't tell. Every human we see in this movie that isn't our main characters are always usually seen laughing and having a good time. Even when Akima gets shot, they're still making jokes and laughing it off, which is a little weird when you think about it. Yeah, I get it's the future and they can heal her real quick, but look, I'm just saying, laughing and cracking jokes is a really weird way to react to someone getting shot. The most we see in terms of struggling is when this girl is complaining about not being able to play a game of soccer on a real field, which, like, boo-hoo! You can't play soccer properly. You see what I'm saying? The reason why I don't care is because it seems like humanity doesn't care. The quest for the Titan lacks urgency because, from what we see, humanity isn't all that upset over Earth blowing up, which is really weird because, again, Earth blew up! It should be the most significant event that happens in their entire lives, and yet we don't see how that really affects them. Sure, we're told how that affects them, but again, this breaks the fundamental rule of filmmaking: to show, don't tell. Show us the suffering. Show us humanity trying to cope and pick up the pieces, and while we're at it, maybe give the Dredge an actual good reason to kill humanity because, oh my god, the Dredge are fucking awful. Not because they're genocidal maniacs that blew up a planet, but because they are the most boring, uninteresting antagonists I've ever seen in a movie. So you'll never guess why they decide to blow up Earth in the first place. Well, Akima gives us the reason after her and Kale are captured.
So what did the human race ever do to the Dredge?
It's not what we did. They're afraid of what we might become.
Oh, it was what humanity could become. Can't have humanity actually do anything first. Wouldn't that have been way more fascinating? That humanity actually did something to provoke the Dredge first? Look, I don't know if you guys know this, but in real life, humanity sucks. Hard. We ignore the homeless, abuse animals, go to war over stupid shit, and it hasn't even been 100 years since the single bloodiest conflict on Earth. Imagine how fucked up humanity would be in the future after we meet aliens and shit. And don't act like we wouldn't be. Imagine if humanity captured a couple of the Dredge and performed horrible experiments on them, something akin to the Nazi experiments on Jews in World War II. Humanity would see the Dredge and think, well, they're not flesh and bone like we are, so they're clearly not equal to us. The Dredge, learning about this, would understandably freak the hell out because humanity would then be capturing them in large numbers and using their essence to fuel their starships like we see in the movie. Not only would something like that actually give the Dredge some depth and make their attack on humanity justified, but it would also paint humanity in a negative light. Then the movie can start actually asking real questions about morality and humanity itself. Kale doesn't really give a shit about his dad, right? Well, why not make his dad an actual piece of shit? Make it so where his dad was actually in charge of those experimentations on the Dredge, and now he would have expected Kale to follow in his footsteps. Humanity would have brought its own destruction on itself because of the horrible atrocities it chose to commit. And now, the question on Kale's mind, and thus the audience's, would be, do I use the Titan to save my race while at the same time wiping out another one? Because again, in this scenario, from the Dredge's perspective, they were simply trying to defend themselves, or at the very least, declared war on Earth because Earth committed terrible atrocities against them. Would Kale choose to follow in his father's footsteps, or would he try to find another path? A path that maybe led to peace with the Dredge, or at least a ceasefire? Yeah, it wouldn't be an easy answer, but that would have been the point. It would have made the audience think about what they would do in that situation. Some people might have said, man, fuck the Dredge, and just hit the button, while others would have opted for something else. This is the same person who gave us The Secret of Nim, a movie that also raised these kind of questions. Questions about morality, evolution, experimentation, right or wrong, etc. This movie could have done the same thing, raising the real questions like, is humanity even really worth saving? If the movie had gone down that route, it would have been brilliant. But as it is, the Dredge are the most boring part of this movie. They have zero character, their designs are really uncanny, and the CGI just has not aged well at all. I mean, look at this. It looks awful. Of course, then again, what do you expect when you only have 19 months to make a movie? And you also had to outsource it to other studios. I mean, no wonder this movie just doesn't look that good. I mean, okay, yeah, that might have sounded a little harsh. Look, as Don Bluth movies go, it's still good animation, and you can tell there's still great talent put into this movie. Some sequences are actually pretty good looking. The actual destruction of Earth is actually really intense. Watching huge chunks of Earth smash into the moon and break it apart, that was actually pretty sick. That flying sequence with the urges, it's my time to fly, was pretty cool looking. And there was that sequence with the ice crystals. That was neat for a bit. But with all that said, this movie relies way too much on the 3D animation, and it just does not blend well with the 2D animation, leading to some really awkward looking scenes and just some really weird looking edits. It's ambitious, I'll give it that, but I don't think the technology was fully there yet to pull it off for the full movie, at least with their budget. And all the production troubles definitely didn't help it. Not to mention these alien designs just aren't all that creative either. Some of them are okay, like Preed, but then there's that kangaroo one with the crazy ass legs. Like, what are those legs, lady? How do you go to bed? Do you sleep standing up like a horse? How does this work? The Dredge, again, are just really uncanny looking. Like, they're energy beings, right? Shouldn't they be able to take any form they want? Let them all have their own unique designs. That'd be pretty cool. Even Kale himself is literally just Dimitri from Anastasia. I mean, look at these two! They're practically twins! I've never seen this before in an animated movie, where it's almost exactly the same character. The only real difference between them is like the hair color. That's about it. That is just so fucking weird. The story feels like it's all over the place. The main characters stop at this planet called Sisharum, where the Gowls help them read the map, and it just feels like such an unnecessary step. Why can't Kale just read the map on his own? Why does he need to go to this planet just so he can read the next step? What if that planet just so happened to be destroyed by the Dredge as well? Did you think about that one, Ron Perlman Dad Man? I know it sounds like I'm overthinking it, but it's made even more clear how unnecessary this step was when after Kale is captured, the Dredge just know how to read the map themselves. They didn't even know about the map until Corso told them about it, so how would they know how to read it? Why is the Dredge just able to read the map right away, but Kale and the others all had to go to the demonic Petrie's place just so they could find the first step? That's a little weird, don't you think? Why couldn't it be like Treasure Planet where the map was just super easy to read and figure out? Ugh, that's so unfair, RaisorBlade. I'm so sick and tired of people comparing this movie to Treasure Planet and thinking that it's a ripoff of it. Well, fun fact, douchebag, Treasure Planet came out after Titan AE. If anything, Treasure Planet is a ripoff of Titan AE.
What? Cat got your tongue. Can't think of one of your pithy comebacks? No, I'm
I'm just trying to process what you just said. So that's not true. It's not even close to truth. It's not in a 50-mile radius of truth. Like, if you dropped an atomic bomb on truth, what you just said wouldn't even have radiation burns.
If you're not a fan of sci-fi, futuristic stuff, you shouldn't watch this movie. It will be pretty obvious why you wouldn't like it.
I said, I don't know anything about science fiction. I don't even like 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 science fiction.
I think it would help a lot of people if they actually did their research before commenting on YouTube videos, because Titan AE was made within the span of 19 months. Again, a very short time span for a film's development. Meanwhile, Treasure Planet took over 4.5 years to make, which, considering how expensive the movie was to make, isn't hard to believe. And we're not even taking into account the fact that both John Musker and Ron Clements have been trying to get Disney to greenlight that movie since the 80s. And it's also based on a very famous book. A very old, famous book. From way back in 1883. So where the fuck are y'all coming from when you say shit like that? Look, I'll admit, maybe it is unfair to compare this movie to Treasure Planet since it did come out later. As for the many similarities between the two, I think they were purely coincidental. Titan AE couldn't have ripped off Treasure Planet because it did come out first, and Treasure Planet ripping off Titan AE, yeah, fuck no. I know it may annoy some people, but when one movie clearly does something far superior than another, I'm gonna recommend that movie over this one, regardless of when it did come out. Titan AE wants there to be this pseudo father-son relationship with Kale and Corso, but compared to Jim and Silver, it's not even a contest, come on! All Kale and Corso had was one scene where Corso teaches Kale how to drive, and that's it. Compared to the days, or even weeks, that Jim and Silver spent together? Oh, fuck off! Especially since in Treasure Planet, we actually get to see Silver struggle with his betrayal of Jim. We see how they bonded. While Corso doesn't seem to really care all that much. He's perfectly cool with what he's doing, and he doesn't show any regret at all. No hesitation, no remorse. There isn't much of a connection between Kale or, well, any of the characters, to be frank. Did you notice how the babysitter just kind of disappears after that first fight? Yeah, we never see him again. He doesn't have some epic, heroic sacrifice or anything. He just chooses to stay behind because he's fucking tired. He's like, dude, I've been dealing with this guy and his bullshit for 15 fucking years and I'm sick of it. I don't care if the Dredge do kill me. He's your problem now. Which, ironically enough, kind of makes him the most relatable character in the movie. He's also voiced by Tone Loc, the same guy who would later go on to voice Chestnut in Chowder. So yeah, Tech is actually my favorite character in the movie. He's the smartest, he actually has a cool voice. Yeah, I unironically love him now. Disney, we know you own Fox now, therefore this movie, so how about a Tech spinoff, huh? Get Don and Gary back on board. Everyone, send Disney a message. Get Tech King trending so we can let Disney know about the greatness that is Tech. If Spike is the father, then Tech would be the son. And if I had to pick a Holy Spirit, then Alex. Yeah, Alex would be the Holy Spirit. We got the Holy Trinity, guys. We gotta make this into like a t-shirt or something. Oh god, this shit is so cursed. But all jokes aside, it is a little weird how he just gets completely forgotten about after the scene. You did my boy dirty like that, Hans. Not cool. The soundtrack is both really good and also completely dates the movie, if that makes sense. It's what you'd expect from this time period. I mean, the trailer for this movie had fucking Creed playing in it. Now, don't take this the wrong way. I love Power Man 5000 as much as the next guy, but it's just so weird to hear them specifically in a Don Bluth movie. You'd never imagine such a thing. It just feels rather tagged on because that's what a lot of movies were doing at the time. It just feels disingenuous. Oh god, what else is there to talk about with this movie? Matt Damon's voice does not fit his character at all. Like, I don't know if it's because his character is just Dimitri again, but his voice sticks out like a sore thumb, and he frankly sounds like he's only doing the bare minimum with his voice acting. I don't get why he chooses to call the New Earth Bob in the end. Like, why would you choose that name of all things? It's not your dad's name, it's not Corso's name. Why not just name it after Tech? Come on, Planet Tech. He deserves a planet. Watched your stupid ass for 15 years, okay? Name the planet Tech! Yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I really have to say about this one. Outside of a couple cool looking scenes and Tech, this movie really just has nothing. It is just the most bare bone, by the numbers, predictable movie I've seen in quite some time. You've probably noticed by the sound of my voice that I'm not all that angry about it, because I'm really not. This movie just bored me. Everything in this movie I've seen done better in many other movies. This movie isn't like other Don Bluth movies, not just in terms of tone and style, but because unlike any other Don Bluth movie, I don't care about it. It's not a beautiful masterpiece like The Land Before Time or The Secret of Nim, nor is it a colossal disaster like A Troll in Central Park or Rockadoodle. Like, say whatever you want about any other Don Bluth movie, but literally every other Don Bluth movie has one thing that this movie does not. Personality. The characters are flat and lifeless. The story is, at its best, predictable, and at its worst, uninteresting. The villains are a joke. The themes are underdeveloped and just feel like wasted opportunities. Judging from what other people have to say about this movie, this might end up being my hottest take since I said Brother Bear sucked. And it still does. But at the same time, I wouldn't say this movie is awful. That is a word I would use to describe something that makes me feel something about it. Marmaduke is awful. Dragon Ball Evolution is awful. But Titan AE is not awful. It's just bad. Like, light year bad. As in, it's watchable at best, but you don't get anything earnest from it that you can't get from something else. I don't hate this movie or anything, so you're probably one of the many people who actually really likes it, and if you are, then that's cool. You can like whatever you want. I still think it sucks though. It's like I said in the beginning of this video, when you review movies for as long as I have, you find out that the worst movies aren't the ones that offend you or are the most incomprehensible or the most stupid. They are the ones that are the most boring, because they leave you with nothing to say or to feel. With A Troll in Central Park, I'll at least remember how bad that movie is, but as for this one, it's already fading from my memory as we speak. Except for Tech, of course. This movie would be the final nail in the coffin for Don and Gary's careers. Fox Animation Studios would shut down a whopping 10 days after it was released in theaters, and from then on, Don and Gary would never go on to make another movie again. At least for now. Like, it's never too late for them to get back in the game and make a real animated movie. Wink, wink. And that's why Titan AE is actually Titan BF. But at least we got tech from it, so, you know, best movie ever!